we're gonna get in here and see if we can find that little spring.
Hey y'all, thanks for joining me. This week's video, we're gonna pull out the 69 Skylark. It's out back, so I'll just do a real quick walk around over first. Abandoned again, that's my bad, but we're gonna see if we can fix some engine problems. That rattling it's got going on, and hopefully get close to driving the thing. Got new shoes for it too.
See what happens.
Hey y'all, before we dive off into this video, I want you to go check out Gentry and Sons Trucking. They had a devastating shop fire, lost trucks, tools, a bunch of irreplaceable items, so just go check them out. They've got a fundraiser going, and you can make donations or whatnot, but they're a good family, got kids, and it's a tragedy. It's always been my biggest fear is my shop burned down, and my biggest fear is a reality for them. So go check them out. They need your support and everything. I've been following them for a long time. They've got some cab overs, bunch of trucks. Good guy, so go check them out. Well, fellas, we're back here working on the 69 Skylark. Gotta admit, I am a little bit ashamed of myself to even show it to you this way. Everything was going great, progressing smoothly, and then middle of the year hit and things got out of hand. Anyways, stick around for a second. Well, this one here's completely down. The one over there is original. By original, I mean it's a bias ply. This guy's holding air. Got the old air breather assembly on it. Still got a battery in it. Don't know if we got a charge. Got transmission fluid because it's got a pretty ridiculous transmission fluid leak. So we'll get this tire aired up and see if she'll start. Well, the old tire would not air up. I have given her a little sniff of gasoline down the carburetor there, hooked the battery up, threw some transmission fluid in it. There's about a 98.5% chance the float is gonna stick open. Lots of times they do if they just sit. I don't even know if we got a battery. Got some kind of battery. Do we got keys? Yep, we got keys. Like I said, I gave it a sniff of gas, so if it's gonna light, it should hit pretty quick. And hopefully we can get gas pumped up to the engine before we run out of battery. Well, it hit. Oh gosh. Give her another sniff of gas. Got a lot of oil in it, so it's gonna be as looby-dooby as possible. I gotta get it out of this hole here so I can get the wheels off on this driver's side, because they are the ones that I'm gonna put the new rims on. And I don't even know where the other two are. Probably got 10 of them wheels somewhere. Here we go. I think it had gas in it. Oil pressure light went out. Well, I moved it about whatever that is, but got it to take air. Only needs to hold air long enough to drive around the house one time. Well, we made it back around the block. Probably need to clean that carburetor out again. You can hear that clacking, that's what we gotta fix. That's the main reason I haven't done no driving, that and tires. So, gotta look at that. Apparently my new master cylinder cap is leaking, so that's what happens when you park stuff, even though it's only been 6 to 7 months. And intermittently I'm losing my key hot, so I have the coil jump. It'll run for a couple of minutes and then quit, so I just jump the coil and it's still going. So now I gotta pull these, nope, not those. Gotta pull those guys off, put new tires on them, and then find 2 more. Just gonna let it run for a couple of weeks. Gonna do the tires in a second, so I'll just do a real quick walk around of her first. I'm using those wheels there. They're the original ones, but with better tires. So, show you the magic here in a second. Just look at that, fellas. She looks spectacular. It's her first new set of shoes in at least 40 years. Tires got about 500 miles on them. Wheels are all used Buick wheels that I've had in my collection. A couple of them are original to the car. Trim rings are like, I think, G-body, but they look pretty stinking good, and they'll be a good stand-in until I can afford to buy the actual Buick stuff. She looks good. Strangely enough, one of my wheels is painted silver as opposed to chrome like the other 3. Couldn't find my other chrome one. I got 1 or 2 other ones somewhere. So, thinking if I can't find the chrome ones, I'll just paint that the brightest silver I can find, and it'll work just fine. Also ordered a new set of lug nuts, chrome lug nuts that are not here yet, but just look at her. Tires need cleaned up. They should look nice and black when I get done with that. Looking good. Just need to breathe a little life into that paint. Thinking about painting the top gloss white. Should have a vinyl top, white, but she's looking good. Well, it's a nice morning today. Kind of cold, but it's wintertime. So the first big objective that I want to do here to kick off this reintroduction of this project car is we got to get rid of that nasty valve train clatter. But before I can do that, I got to clean this thing out. I've never sprayed the interior of this engine bay down. Got poop up there from who knows what, dirt everywhere. She's got the camouflage battery tray, super rare option. But look at this. I gotta pull this intake off, and this just has decades of mice droppings, all kinds of stuff. Mouse nests on top of the transmission. I mean, I gotta split these valve covers off, and I gotta do a real good cleaning and a quick degreasing of everything. Before I get to spraying, I gotta get all this flash rust off of our brand new master cylinder, which now looks ancient. Now every time I fire this thing up, these old brittle valve cover gaskets just go to pouring oil right on the heads. Goes to smoking and stinking, so we got to get that squared away. You can see my brand new water pump and belts and everything from last year's session. Also a victim of sitting for quite some time, 8 or 10 months. I have no accelerator pump function, even though it's a new accelerator pump. So the carby is going to have to come back off, and the float sticks about every other time you start it. So I'm going to have to put a better quality carb kit in there and figure out why I have no accelerator pump. It's quite difficult to start it with no accelerator pump or keep it running, especially in the wintertime right now. Got to get started somewhere. Give you a quick once over before we go to washing everything. It's not terrible except for right on top of the engine. So we're gonna degrease the crap out of this over the course of a few hours today. Well, I let the chemical soak for a couple of hours, misted a little water on it, and kind of reactivated it a little bit. I did water hose off the heaviest of the debris under the hood here. and I'm fixing to spray a bunch more cleaner on there. Already just with a water hose, just spraying it once, it already came quite a bit cleaner. I used some acid and cleaned that, got the rust off of that. Also doing the bottom of the hood. I want to set you up and you can see how I do my spraying operation with this guy. So the old garden sprayer is the most effective degreaser I have found. Degreaser applier, I should say. A little squirt bottle, you just wear your hands out. This is the Zeppum. The Zeppum purple, I think it is. You get a whole lot of it out on it real quick. I'm not spraying it directly on the carburetor, the water I mean, when I'm rinsing it and washing it, because I don't want it to get around my tape job. When I get done, I'm going to crank the engine and let it run for a second, just in case any water did get in there. Ooh. Handle came unlatched. You let this soak until it's just about starting to dry a little bit. You can scrub it and get it pretty clean, but I find just a soak, rinse, soak, rinse works just as effectively. This thing just mainly has decades of dirt on it just from sitting for all these decades. I'll probably eventually start scrub brushing some of it, but it won't be today. Well, if you don't think we're getting a lot out of the engine bay, just look at that. That was from the first spray. I mean, it is everywhere. So, I'm gonna go ahead and start spraying. Start up the hood. Super windy today. Oh, that ain't working well. There. Trying to make sure the water don't come right off on the carburetor. Can't abuse that stuff too much or it'll get turned into some mush. Probably will anyways. Wish I had me some oven cleaner. It works pretty good on a lot of greasy parts. I don't like to put it on like aluminum or anything like that, but it works pretty good on this stuff. Probably not gonna phase the heavy baked on oil unless I do it like 9 billion times. But once I get the intake and valve covers off, I can clean them on their own, you know. I'm going to do this for a few minutes and bring you back. Here we are messing with the old Buick this morning. I got most of the heavy initial degreasing done. She came pretty clean. I still got some oil kind of splattered over there, penetrating oil I need to wipe off, but the engine came pretty clean. We got a lot of the crud off. Still some pretty heavy baked on crud. A whole bunch of it down there, but around the perimeter of the valve cover in the intake, I got that pretty clean. intake itself came out pretty good, I think. She's been valve cover's been painted before. Car sitting right in front of the shop door, and having to move it a lot. I don't want to put it out back because we're getting rain a lot. But the accelerator pump, I suspect, is dead, and it's cold outside, so it's making it quite difficult to move the thing. When it's cold, you need that extra accelerator pump shot more than ever. You know, just you put it in gear trying to move, and it's just like, nope, not going to do it, and it dies unless the engine's hot. And I don't want to sit here and let it run for 5 minutes every time I need to move it. So we're going to pop the top off that, set you up with the camera, we'll get busy. I do want to show you another thing. Look at all that transmission fluid. This thing just rolled down the driveway. It hasn't even been driven. That puddle's about 8 inches diameter. So that we gotta fix fast. So what should be happening when we whack this gas right now? We should hear a little squick squick inside that carburetor, smell fuel, which we are not. The accelerator is right, accelerator pump I should say, is right here. Little plunger, it's mechanically activated, goes squirts fuel through passageway and down into your carburetor. Its function is to give a little extra shot of fuel when you open the throttle blades like that. So the butterflies go open. When that happens, the engine pulls a pretty strong vacuum. A lot of extra air goes into the engine. So to keep from getting a bog when you whack it, where it goes boom and then picks up, gives it a little shot at fuel enrichment. And this is not doing that. So I'm gonna wager the little O-ring diaphragm on the end of the plunger has failed. It's pretty common, especially with today's fuels, even the straight gas. This little fella right here, probably that seal there has got torn or is dry rotted. And when you push down on that plunger, it creates a seal around that O-ring, pushes fuel in there, and it ain't doing it. Got me a carby kit. All I want to do at this point is get the accelerator pump working so I can move the car easily. When we pull this intake valve covers off, we'll pull the carb off and go through it again, put this new kit in it. I only did a partial kit rebuild probably a year and a half ago. Year and a half, I bet it was. And clearly it has failed, so we'll take it apart then. But for now, I just want to be able to move it. So what you want to wager, this is the problem. Also, it's got a stuck needle and seat, so I may see if I throw the new needle in there, see what happens. But we're gonna pull this thing off real quick. We're just gonna take the top off the carburetor. I'm not gonna take the whole thing off. That involves pulling this little linkage off the side of it for the choke closer mechanism. You can't see what I'm doing, but that's what I'm doing. You just have to believe me. Okay, that's out of the way. I'm not even going to take the fuel line loose. I'm just going to lay it over there in your face. Gonna pop the screws out. I didn't even put all the screws back in when I took it apart last winter because I knew I'd be getting in it again. Oop, that one came with it. Alright, what else? I think 2 more. Okay. Now I can lay the bolts on the intake without losing them because it's clean. We've got to figure out what's going on inside this engine. It's clattering like crazy. I do not want to run it. If it's got a valve train problem, it could potentially break a rocker arm if that's not already what the case is. If your valve train comes apart, what'll happen is it'll spit the push rod out it'll spit the lifter out of the bore, and they can fall down inside of the lifter valve and break the cam, wipe out the cam when they jam up against something like that. So it's not good when stuff like that happens. Okay, got loose. Tain't good at all when that happens. Okay, forgot a clip. Hang on. Okay, forgot something. There it is. Magnetic tip screwdrivers are good for that. Okay, what do we got? Carb is fuel of fuel, like I expected it would be. This is what has failed. It looks brand new and everything. I don't know why it isn't working, but it is clearly not. I'm gonna pull this clip out and pop that off. Where's my, forgot my pliers. That wasn't very smart. Alright, come here, little fella. Ooh, that hurt my finger. I poked it with a screwdriver. Alright. There. I suspect that's what the problem is. I can just stick it down in there and go and see if it does anything. If it doesn't, I can pop the other one in there, the new one, and do the same thing. See if we get fuel. Oh, I see a problem here. Look at that, spring's not in it. That's odd. Where did it go? Alrighty then. So I'm not really seeing anything wrong with the float. When it goes up and down, the needle comes with it. This is new, this whole brass assembly. Now you can have a flooding situation from the needle not sealing, but you can also have a flooding situation when this gasket right here at the carburetor body at the end of my pointer, if that seal isn't sealing, fuel just goes around the whole entire needle and seat assembly. So it doesn't matter if the needle's working at all at that point. Now we're gonna get in here and see if we can find that little spring. I just can't believe that I wouldn't put it in there. If I didn't put it in there, it's not this guy. If I didn't put it in there, then I get the Idiot of the Year award. Do we have a spring in here? You see anything? Bizarre. Why would I put that in there without the spring on it? Huh. So that was obviously my bad, my oversight. Unless it just fell out when I went to assemble it, which I don't think is possible. Well, sorry. Well, that is definitely going to be my accelerator pump problem. I have no idea how I overlooked that. The new one on the left has a spring, the one on the right does not. So the spring's function is to keep this here seal pushed out up against the body of the inside of that carb. And without it, I mean, it's just go over here, go over here. You ain't gonna get no accelerator pump, clearly. Well, that's kind of an embarrassing omission for me. Now I want to go back and watch the video and see if I can see myself not putting that back in there. I greased the little blue guy there. She rides down in here. Sets down in here, up against the spring. So I'll go ahead and pop that dude in there. We're just gonna do a little testing on it. It had no function, no possibility to function with this gone. I don't know if you can see any fuel in there or not. See, eyeball right here. That's what it was not doing before. Okay. I'm betting we have a better shot of the thing lighting off and staying running, more importantly. Let's see, did it go? Yeah, it went that way. Bring this over here. Find the clip. Here it is.
Well, it's a lot easier to find stuff on top of this intake without 14 gallons of mouse poop and pee up there. All right, that's back in. And I'm not seeing nothing wrong with the needle and seat. So, who knows, could have just had a little crud in it. Okay, we're gonna set it back on there. There's not much debris or anything in the bowl either. Gonna guide that little fella down in there, our accelerator pump. Make sure everything's going where it's supposed to go. That's trying to jam up. Okay. I think we're all there. Let's put in a couple of screws just to hold her. Now I'm gonna go ahead and attempt a, come on, my linkage for the stupid accelerator pump popped out again. That little rascal. Hang on, gotta pick it back up a little bit. There it went. Okay. I got the top put back on her. Got all the screws in it. Appear to be having a accelerator pump again. So we'll hop in there and give her a whirl. See if she'll start. Still got a little water in the spark plug sockets. These are old and loose and don't fit very good. So she's a little cold-blooded anyways, but we'll give her a whirl. When I plugged the battery up, I heard a click in the voltage regulator. I get in here and the gen light is on. See that? With any of these older cars like this, that's a dead giveaway that one of the diodes in the alternator is shorted out, and it's basically sending battery voltage straight into the alternator. And I'm telling you what, that'll kill the battery quick. So I didn't know that was a problem, but I do know that's the cause of that. Keys off, battery's connected, the gen light's on, means the alternator shorted, but won't keep us from doing what we're doing here. Okay, whack the gas a few times, see what happens. Choke is closed. The fuel filter is almost empty, so she's drained a bunch of the gas out of the line. Might have to crank for a minute. She's kind of got a little doopy-doo in her crank. Means it's down on compression on one of the cylinders. Very possibly the dead cylinder that's making the rattling. I think she thought about it for a second. Need to investigate further. Stand by. As opposed to just continuing to hit it with fuel, I just shot a little ether. I think the carburetor's dry or she's just cold. Oil light goes out quick. Alright fellas, so when we first initially got this thing fired back up, I had thought that the reason that clattering was going on was because we just had a lifter not pumping up, which is pretty common, something that's been dead for a long time. All the other lifters were rattling too, but they gradually got quiet and quit making noise. So I was still hoping that thing would quit chattering. It did not. Then when I was cleaning out the trunk, or maybe it was the back seat, I don't remember, I found an aluminum rocker arm, a new one, and I found 2 brand new push rods, which were now all rusty. So that leads me to believe that this clattering was going on beforehand, before they parked it. I can't see any reason why anybody would carry around brand new rocker arm parts and stuff like that if the car had no problem. So we're gonna dive into it. I have to pull these covers off anyways because they leak like crazy. So at this point in time, I'm gonna remove this rocker cover because, as you heard in that video, this sounds like where it's coming from. So we're gonna pull this dude off. Gotta get the compressor rolled out of the way first. I think I can get the valve cover off without taking the compressor off. Compressor is hooked up, so the air system is all intact with the exception of these heater hoses, which I cut off. So I don't want to open that up unless I have to. The car is outside, as you can tell. I just can't put it inside right now. There's so much. It's a mess, just trust me. It has been a regular show. I had to let those soak for a few minutes. They were pretty rusted, corroded. The steel bolts and the aluminum AC bracket, they weren't wanting to play. Imagine that. They've been in there for 40 years or more. Okay. All right, we're gonna disconnect this air compressor. Just a little bit. Okay, get that out of the way. As with any project I do, start with the worst first. This is so easy on a non-air car. This, not so much. Getting it started back in there is the fun part. And this motor is warm. I just moved the car, as you saw. Reason is I want to, there's no way I'm gonna get this on there without dropping it or burning myself. Where was I? What was I talking about? Oh, I stuck my finger right in some oil. Oh, that's so gross. Anyways, I don't want the lifters to bleed off like sitting overnight. So we're gonna pull this cover off while the engine's warm and check the lifters on this side. See if they bled off. She's right at that point where she is loose enough that the ratchet don't want to grab, and tight enough that I can't spin it with my fingers. Got all the bolts out. Hopefully I don't drop too much crap in the engine. Alright, let's go ahead and find out what we're up against here. Yeah, them valve covers definitely weren't stuck much. Smells like very thoroughly burnt oil. That looks good. Those things gave up the ghost a long time ago. Let's get your eyeballs in here and look. What do you make of that funky kind of gray color in there? I don't know if that's condensation or what it is. It's not horribly greasy in there. You still see casting numbers. All right, now let's look at the valve train. I already saw what's wrong. See if y'all can pick up on it. Well, did you see anything? I'll show you. I went and got you a light so you can see better. If you'll look at this rocker arm right here, look at the tip of it that rides on the valve. You see that? Right there.
compared to this one. So what has happened is it knocked the tip off the rocker arm, this part here. The seat is still in place, that little stud, but it's pushed it up, and it's, can't really see real well, but it's chewed up the end of that rocker arm, eating a bunch of it off, so to speak. No, that cylinder's got pressure on it. These are non-adjustable rocker arms. They're shaft mounted. You just knock them down there and tighten them. So here is the ultimate problem with this scenario. There's two. One, the push rod spits out, and if the push rod spits out, it puts the lifter out, and that can fall in the lifter board and break the cam and stuff. Worst problem is the end of that, see right there, that can actually knock the keeper off of the valve. You do that, the valve's dropping down in the cylinder and your motor's done. Best case scenario would be you have to put a new cylinder head on it because it beats a hole in it. Worst case is it goes through the piston, tears up the block. So this is a good catch. And this is actually good news because it's easy to get that arm off. There's no adjustment necessary. I can pull the end of the thing off, slide a new rocker arm on it. My fear would be that the end of the valve stem is messed up, but it probably isn't, because this soft metal here is aluminum, and that steel, that hard pressed steel insert is still in there, so more than likely it did not chew up the end of the valve. But worst case scenario, I'm gonna pull the intake and pull the head off and replace one of the valves. So the good news is I don't have to take the intake off if this gets the thing to quiet down. I'm not even going to start this thing or move it or anything like that until I get that fixed. I spun the old engine over to get this lobe of the lifter off the lobe so you can see where this noise is coming from. See how loose that is? I mean, it's moving 1/8 of an inch. That's where all that clack, 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 and this soft aluminum is just getting beat to death by the end of this valve. So you can see how loose that push rod is. So we're gonna go ahead and snatch the old rocker shaft arm assembly off of this thing. Got my big breaker bar to bust it free. Okay. Get this rocker shaft assembly inside and do a little cleanup on it. Then the fun part will start, trying to find the my 1968 and 69 rocker shaft assemblies. I got a couple that are from parts cars or whatnot. Okay, they're broke free. Whoa, try my best not to knock you guys over. Some of these are going to be under tension by whichever cylinders are in the valve activated position. Actually, these all seem pretty loose. Somewhere I've got some NOS rocker arms. The trick is going to be finding them. Personally, I really like the shaft mounted rocker arms. The Buicks are that way. A lot of Fords are that way. Takes all the guesswork and adjustment out of your rocker arms. So they don't loosen up is basically what I mean by that. Anybody that's had an engine like small block Chevy or anything else that has adjustable arms, once you adjust that nut a couple of times, they can loosen up over time. And you're constantly popping valve covers off and adjusting them. These work pretty good consistently for hydraulic lifter engines. I'm gonna have to go through this top of this cylinder head, through these valleys right there real careful, and make sure that I get any of the
debris that came from that rocker arm out. I think we're loose enough to pull it. This bolt's not all the way backed out yet. It's almost. Okay, let's go ahead and. All right. So I did a little cleanup here on our rocker shaft arm assembly, and you can see here's our damaged one. I'm gonna pick it up so you can see better. Try not to knock you over. Trying to get it to focus. That's the damage. You can see where it's the valve stem has just eaten that little cup right into the end of the rocker arm. And then you can see where the top of the valve keeper itself, the big washer, has just chewed right into that arm. And if you compare that to the arm next to it, it's taken a lot of metal out of it. Like I said earlier, 1/8 of an inch or more. So what happened here, I can tell you almost with certainty. Sometimes those little metal shoes, see them? Little round guys, center of your shot. Those are mounted to that little stud that goes up through there. For whatever reason, I've seen with these 350s before, that little plate will snap off of there, the little shoe, and it'll leave the stud in there. All right, so from the factory, these little guys are pressed on to the end of here. Super tight fit. I got my little punch there through the hole and grabbed this with a pair of vice grips, heated it up, and spun it off. So as far as the teardown goes, this is going to be easy. But what I did find in it is, you remember this gray sludge all over everything? Look at that. Look how much is in the end of that. Let's see, where's it at? Look at that. What that is oil, old oil debris, deposits, stuff like that. I think what the gray is, I think that is essentially the remnants of water contamination. And likely where that came from, in my opinion, is when this thing was flooded, the car, I mean the engine, I drained, I don't know, a ton, probably 10 gallons of water out of the crankcase. The engine was seized when it sat for 2 days like that. So I think what that was, at the time what I did, I pulled all the plugs, I squirted a bunch of penetrating oil in the cylinders, I'd worked the crank. Over like a course of 2 days, I got the engine to spin. When I got it to spin freely, I hit it with the starter, and it would spin relatively easily. As soon as I got it that free, I put fresh oil in it and a fresh oil filter, and I didn't try to start it, but I just spun that engine to get oil circulated up through the engine. So I think that's what that is. I think it's sludge that just came from the engine being flooded because it had a copious amount of water in it. It doesn't appear to actually have any metal in it. I don't want to wipe out my valve train components because of that. See, there's a little oiling hole right there. So that means that there's an oiling hole on the shaft as well. Oil comes out, oils through here. I don't want these to get blocked and cause a major problem. So this one I'm definitely going to clean out, probably do that off camera, and then we'll put all the stuff back on. I'm going to go ahead and pull my punch out and just pop all these off just so you can watch me do that. Then I'll just clean this shaft out, see where we wind up. This is a little jam nut washer there. First arm. Pull my punch and then it'll shoot off these two. Okay. This one's a little clunky. Say shoot off like they're gonna go flying across the room. Okay.
Next one, spring, and our damaged guy right here. Oh, I know what that is. It's just a little step on the edge of here. Well, this one's damaged anyway, so it don't matter. Okay, so this bolt being in here will retain all these other ones. I might just pull them out anyways to make it easier to clean, but this is our culprit. So off camera, I'm gonna go ahead and clean this tube out, see what it comes out of it. Obviously a bunch of this, and I'll bring you back when I get ready to put it back together. Well, I can certainly say that after seeing how nasty the inside of this was, I will definitely be pulling the other one off and giving it a good cleaning. It was pretty horrific. So at this point, I'm going to go ahead and reassemble this one. That's my rooster. Okay, that one down. Yeah, I won't be probably pulling the rocker arms off on that one. Also, again, the rooster. But I will be pulling these bolts out, probably wire tying these together and flushing the inside of them out. Because I do not want what I washed out of the other one washing around in the other one staying there, you know what I mean? Some heavy contamination, I'll say that. So now we put the new one in, which is here, this little fella. This one is, make sure I got orientation right. Okay, now spring. Okay, so then we want, which one was it? I don't think I moved them. That rooster, he just don't care if I'm recording something or not. He's gonna do his thing. Okay. Oops, sorry. Don't know where that other bolt went. His name's Mike. Okay, so lastly, we got this guy. And then this one. And let's see. I'm gonna go ahead and deburr the vice grip marks off of this and put this in the freezer. Then I'll heat this up, pop that cap on there, and I'll bring you back when it's time to put it back together. What a fella's got to do here at this point is to get in here and scrape a ton of debris like that right there. The soupy stuff. I got to scrape all that out of the top of the cylinder head here, especially back here at the back, right here, because there was a PCV valve or cap or whatever it was here, was not there for a long period of time. So there's quite a bit of dirt and debris right here. Fortunately, I don't think much of it wound up in the engine because the drain hole is kind of way up high. It's at a lower point than this, but a lot of the junk has just got trapped, like right up in this area back there. Some of it did wind up in the oil pan, I'm sure. I do have a little bit of concern about the wear on top of this stem. Now the new rocker arm is going to ride right on top of this. It's not going to get off anywhere else. It's right there on the very top. So it's got a little ring cut in it. It's a perfect circle because this thing spins as the engine's running. It turns in a circle, the whole assembly. So what I'm probably going to do is get in there with a real fine file and kind of dress it up. I think it'll be totally fine, but who knows. But I do not want to pull the cylinder head off and the intake just to do that. I want to make sure that this little repair works, that the engine is good and solid, and that it doesn't, you know, have bad head gaskets or something dumb like that, or a crack block, or who knows what. I just want to make sure I got a good engine before I worry about anything. Now, if I drive this for a while and she runs good and drives good, I might pull the engine out anyways just to clean it up and repaint it, but that's a long ways down the road. For now, I just got to work at cleaning this up, get the remainder of this valve cover gasket off. It's petrified.
No, I'm gonna do that all off camera. I did want to show you. Where is it? Right here. Right there is the end of the valve stem, or the rocker arm that broke off. So I'm gonna be looking for any metal or anything. There's no really way I can set you up on a camera and get you to where you can see anything. So I'm gonna clean this up real quick. Well, it's another fine day here in the neighborhood. Beautiful Sunday morning, about 35 degrees. Found out I have some family obligations today. So I'm gonna pop that cover off there. We'll find out together what's going on under that one. On this side here, I was able to clean up and dress the top of that damaged valve stem. Doesn't look like there's any damage to the keeper or the big washer that retains the spring. So I think we'll be okay there. I already put a new cork gasket on the other cover and got it cleaned up. But since I've got family obligations, look at that. I mean, there's no seal at all. I mean, all I did is pull the bolts out. It's no wonder the thing was pouring oil so bad. But since I've got the family obligations, I figured I would pull this off and kind of get it cleaned up. The gasket's just absolutely shot. Anyways, because I always glue the gasket to the cover itself, and I only use cork on the old stuff. Okay, we'll go look in here. Due to the porosity on the top of the cylinder head there, I find that using cork gives you the best shot of it actually sealing. Now this engine, this side doesn't have near the that gray condensation sludge, which means that it didn't get nearly as much water contamination. So that's a good thing to see. It's a lot cleaner. But I'm definitely taking that rocker arm assembly off. I'm gonna clean it out because I don't want none of that sludge buildup that's in there. Now on a good side, like the other side, there's really not that much sludge in there. So either these have been cleaned out, you know, or they just kept up with the oil changes, which is fantastic news. It doesn't look like a Pennzoil for life engine, so that's going to be good. So what I got to do now on the other rocker arm shaft assembly, the one that I took all apart, I took this cap off, which is this one. So I got to get it back on, but the problem is at the factory, they're press fit on there, just like this is. So the other one, I had to heat to get off, and then a bunch of wrenching around with the vice grips. It's a tight fit. The other one that we're going to be working on has been in the freezer all night, and I'm going to heat this sucker up until it's as warm as I can get it with this little tiny benzomatic propane heater. Then I'm going to set it right there, and I'm going to get the frozen rocker shaft assembly. I'm going to tap it down in there with a hammer. So I'm going to heat this up real quick, then I'll run over to the freezer. We'll get this thing assembled. All right. Done. I'll let that dude cool off. Probably just let her set right just like that. What I got to do at this point is these have both been cleaned inside and out. So these tubes fill up with oil. The oil goes through the rocker arms, oils everything. So when I put this back in the car, they're going to have no oil in them whatsoever. So I'm going to have to get in here to each one of them and have to pull them in. I'm going to have to put some oil right where these ride on the underneath of the rockers. I'm going to oil everything really good. I'm going to pull these screws out, or these bolts, put a little oil in there, flip them over, pour oil into the little passageway here. This is the one we repaired. It's got the new rocker arm on it. Now, I wanted to show you this because I was looking for it all day the other day and couldn't find it using an NOS one. Last night, 2 hours after I put this on here, I found the one that had been in the car. So this is what
kind of clued me into the fact that this problem was here before the car was parked. So look at that. Brand new. It's not I don't think it's a GM one. Came in an old TRW box. So let's see. Yeah, it's not a factory GM. And put a little oil there. Little oil there. Little oil there. Not gonna put any of this together till everything moves freely. Well, the time has come to put the top back on her. I've got some assembly lube here that I'm gonna put all over the tips of the rocker arms and the push rods and the tips of the valves. Copious amounts. Otherwise, we're gonna have a totally dry start. We're gonna have a dry start anyways, but don't want it to be any drier than it's gotta be. That's the damaged guy. We'll give him a little extra. The fun part about putting the shaft mounted rocker arm setups back on is getting all the push rods in the cups, but won't be too bad. Famous last words, right? Once I get it bolted down in there, then I'm gonna just pour gear oil all over top of everything. We're gonna see how smoothly or not smoothly we can get this done. You also want to check, make sure that your push rods are all at a straight angle with each other. They could fall out of the lifter down in the bottom. Just gonna make sure one at a time that they are all in the cups or head in that direction. Okay, gonna just start running these in by hand. Probably won't bring you along to do the other side. We gotta make sure we get them aligned right. Okay, that one's good. Let's do this one down here. Okay, got all these started. Okay, I'm gonna grab my ratchet and run them on down, snug them up a little. From what I can tell, everything's gone in there square. You should be able to just barely spin these push rod tubes once you start cramming them down. We're not tight yet, because you can see some of them are still pretty loose. Basically, with the shaft mounted setup, the ones that are going to come under tension first are the ones that are trying to open. So this is going to open the valves. So what I do is I just crank evenly. Once they're all hand tight, I just crank evenly just a little. Just pull the shaft all down together, about like you do putting lug nuts on your car. And then when it's all kind of uniformly snug, check your push rods. If the motor's been setting for any length of time, you're gonna have a little bit of slop because the lifters will bleed off. Doesn't really matter on a shaft mounted system. Main thing is you make sure your rockers are the push rods are in the lifters. Okay, so we've got a pretty good snug going on here. Except for this last guy. You want them all uniformly snug before you torque them. Last step in this process is copious amounts of oil. This is gear oil. I want to put a lot on it, but not so much that it fouls out my sealing surface on the top of the cylinder head. Definitely get a whole bunch on the rocker arms. Get a whole bunch down the tubes. Get it on the push rods, it'll go down into the lifters. A whole bunch on the shaft. Well, y'all probably won't find it surprising. As usual, it's getting dark. It's Sunday afternoon. I guess you'd probably call it Sunday night. And running out of time. That's pretty much my MO. That's gonna be on my tombstone. He never had enough time. Okay, make sure our push rods are lined up. The other side had just ridiculous amounts of that sludge. The whole tube was full of it. This side was pretty clean. I didn't get much out of it. It's also cleaner under the valve cover. I'm honestly glad that it was making that rattling noise, or I might not have caught the amount of sludge that was in it until later, you know. Okay, need to make sure we are push rodding, doing our thing. Make sure none of them are binding while I tighten it down. Everything looks good. Okay, hit it with a ratchet. I've been really looking forward to getting back on this project. I know some of you guys that are Buick dudes are watching this. I appreciate you watching. If you aren't familiar with this project, this is one that I pulled out of basically almost a 40-year slumber. About half that time I owned it. During my ownership, it's been covered up. But she was parked in '86, I suspect, because that rocker arm was bad. What do you fellas think? Let's go ahead and put some valve covers back on this thing. And ladies, if there's any of you watching. Like I was telling you, typically, if I was working on a car, you know, that had a non-adjustable rocker arm set up, I would just put these covers on with a smidge of silicone on it. But might be taking these back off at some point in time in the future. So I'll just not do that. Take a chance that they seep a little bit. Find out pretty quick whether or not this quietens this motor down. Engine. It's an engine. It's not electric. I bet we fire this dude up, and after some short-term clattering, I bet she settles off into a pretty quiet idle. Alright, I'm gonna snug these down, pop the other cover on there, and bring you back when it's time to fire it up. Well, looks like it's time for us to have a moment of clarity, come to Jesus meeting, as it were. I'm gonna put some plug wires back on, see if she runs. So here initially I've got the coil wire disconnected from the distributor. Just gonna crank it for a second. I don't got a lot of battery, but I crank it just long enough to hopefully get a tiny bit of oil pressure going. And then we'll put the coil back on, primer, and see if she'll go. Alright, we're gonna reinstall the coil wire. See if we got any gas left in the carburetor. Don't know, it's been a few days. Actually, probably 4 or 5 days. Dribble a little off in there just for a prime, and hopefully my oil pressure light and my rattling goes away quick. Don't know if that's enough prime or not. Dude, that's how quiet that thing is. Back that idle off a hair. She wanted a little more choke.
Here, just a slight amount of clatter. Most is coming out of this side. This side, dead silent. I guess I'll put the compressor back on there. Let it run for a few minutes. That's exciting. Now that that's not banging and hammering to beat the van, I'll be able to hear all the other knocks and rattles. Well, this was a good week. Good tires, matching set of wheels. Got rid of the death rattle. She's still got issues. It's got a few vacuum leaks, I think. The idle wanders around like a lost puppy. Still need to rewrap a wiring harness. Need a new oil cap. Still seeps a little bit of oil. Got a little bit of a miss. She's a little cranky on a cold start. A little cranky on a hot start. Timing's a little off. Fuel mixture's a little off. Still got to put a complete carburetor kit in that. The base plate and the top gasket leaks. See, it's kind of wet. But the engine sounds a lot healthier. So that's a big win for us. I appreciate you following along as always. Now I can talk with the motor running. Could quit any minute, who knows? Don't have much gas in it, but I appreciate you all following along, and I was excited to get back on this project. So we'll see where this next round takes us. If I can get the thing to, idle smooth and yard drive good, turn signals working, we're going to be road testing this thing real quick. Alternator shot. I can hear the bearing making noise. See if I got any in my collection. Otherwise, let's buy a new one. But I appreciate y'all. See you next time.